Okay, hi, I'm Dina, and this is Talor. We both developed the documentation together, multiply studies documentation feature, and now we're gonna demonstrate it. So we start with the purpose, who I think is pretty obvious, but just to make sure. Until now, when we want to document, to do documentation to a study, we can do it only for one study. And if we want the data to be copied to other studies, for case that the technology is doing a couple of studies and we want all the data to be together, you needed to copy that with the old-fashioned way with copy-paste. This feature allows us to select a couple of studies and open them in the same form. In this way, we have only one form to handle, and the data will be copied by some rules that Tolo is gonna explain later. So that's it in big. We can take, for example, this study. When we want to document together a couple of studies, the first thing is that those studies need to be on the same order, to be in the same documentation together group, which I will show you right away. They're gonna have to be in the same modality or modality type by configuration. The default, I think, is the same modality, but we can configure it to be in the same modality type, and the same status. Okay, for things that we must do. Otherwise, if you can see those studies, no, this is not good example. What are the studies? Chest. Yeah, but I don't remember which one. We created more. אפילו משנה אותו study. נכון. אין לי פה את הסטאדי. We don't have the study column. I want... Okay, never mind. Those are two studies that belong to the same documentation together group, which is pretty easy to configure. We're not getting into configuration right now, but just to show you that, where's the lookup? That SPS codes now I have a new column called document together group key, or group, I don't remember. Document together group key that in here we can configure studies to be in the same group by whatever you want. So we can take those two studies and choose documentation together. There is a new RIS section, etc. It's all in the user guide. And we have now this screen that let us choose which one is the main study. You want to explain?
Okay, before we are starting to talk about documentation together, we have to understand that when we are supposed to copy information from one study to another, we need to decide which is the main study, which is the primary study. There is a configuration about it, if we want to decide it or it is decided for us. If it's decided for us automatically, it will be the first study that was clicked or marked on the work list. And if not, we'll have this screen. In this screen we can pick up the main study. The important thing is, and then I will show it to you later, is on when we're about to document new studies. There is an option like we had in the original documentation context aware form to add study. And when we are here, we have the ability to add more than one study. And then we have, as Dina said, several documentation together groups. So basically we can add something like 5 or 6 studies and document them together. And they will belong to different groups, so will be open in a different windows. Dina will talk about it soon. But for them, we'll see again that we'll have to decide for each group which is the main study.
And the whole concept of a main study is just it's the data window infrastructure. It holds one study. We can't really have them all in there together. To the user, it's essentially invisible. The data window should be identical. The document together group should really be designed around how they're documented, what data windows are like.
Okay, so if we see here, we have 2 studies. First one is city chest, and the other one is city pretty extremity. We'll begin as city chest is now. It will be the main study, and we will see some kind of the regular documentation group. Okay, one thing is important to see is that we have a different way of the data set. Okay, if we are looking on PPS level, because in documentation we're in PPS level, we have this, let's say, floating table. It is not a real table in the database, but this is like a summarize of, we call it multi-SPS PPS. It's summarize of the information right now, because we have a lot of background logic in the server to map those SPS and PPS. We have the RP, the SPS ID, and the PPS key. On this example, on this screen, for example, this will be new first documentation form. So we don't have PPS key right away. So the PPS are in minus. The very important thing about this data set, which is not familiar to you, is that we have, it's not only one PPS. It's not linked PPS, it's real PPS, and we can say, it in PPS. Okay. On PPS, okay, we have 2 different PPS. The minuses means that they are new. And of course, each one of them will get a new PPS key. We'll see it after we press OK. And all the information, we'll see it later in the PPS item, for example. PPS item will be repeated or relevant for each PPS. Another thing I want to mention about this screen is the fact that we have these data windows. And when we are talking about document together, we're talking about copying information from one PPS level to another PPS level. The main idea is that we're talking about the zero-based PPS, as we see in the dataset, which means the first PPS information will be copied for all dataset information to the others. This is why the main study is important, so we know which study we're copying from which. But on this control, it means that the value that we enter in each control will be copied to the PPS, to the other PPS. The main logic behind the scene is that we have for each control, I think you saw it in the documentation, that we have a flag called skip copy. The skip copy means that we can choose to eliminate this control from the copy algorithm. The idea is that we are copying all the controls in the documentation except fields or controls that we're explicitly skipping the copy. So the default skip copy for each control will be false unless we want a certain control to be skip copy.
Like
And
for HSO, the NCRT code that's associated with the study. That's why it's
and let's try to see. Should I show an example of the copy? Or not yet? Okay. Okay.
Okay, so now to the thing that we can do in documentation. First thing is new study. New study is still a button down the form, and we can select studies to add. But since we're now in documentation together state, there are a couple of scenarios. Just think about it, that if we're adding study that is in the same group, there is a question whether we want to add it to the current form, like we want to add it, and to copy all the data to it also. Or on the other hand, we can open it in a new form, like in the old version. Okay, so I'll take a study that is part of the documentation together group. Yeah, this one. You can see that there is a message box, a question to the user, asking if we want to add it to the current form or to open a new one. I will select the open in new one just to show you. This is exactly like the old new study. And if we have a sign-in on the form, it won't be open again. All the credential will be moved to the next form. Okay, so this is new study in a new form. A more complex scenario is to add the study to the same form. So we choose again the same study, CT spine, and now we select to add it to the current window. You will see the third one here, and also, of course, in the data set. It is created, went to a write state, and added to the same form. But if I know in any scenario we want to add study that isn't belong to the same group, there isn't any issue. It can't be documented together with this group of studies, so it will be opened in a new one. And we'll take city. We'll take this study. And now there is no question. Like, just if you want to document it now, no, or yes, and then it will be opened in a new one. So the whole decision is going in the backstage, deciding for the user. The last example of the new study is when we are adding more than one study that isn't two studies from the same group, and they will be open in a new form. But then again, we will need to choose which one is the primary, just as Talor said before. So we'll take again two studies.
Just a small comment. Up until now, you couldn't add more than one study
Yeah.
in documentation. You couldn't pick more than one. In the new form in documentation together, you can choose more than one study. And as Dina has shown you, if it's a study from the same group, there is a question whether to add it to the current window or to open it in a new window. If it's not on the same group,
Yeah.
there's no question.
This is example that combine all those options. We added city spine, which belongs to the same group, and two studies from another group. And we will see that we have the list of studies that we want to add. We have the question, because we have one study that can be added to the same form. We will select to open all in new window. So we're gonna have new two forms, okay? And now we have the primary study form that Dolores explained before, but in different way. Now we have all the studies. This one I can't change. It only one study, it will be the primary, and in this one I can select which one is the primary, and that's it. So just 3 studies are being created right now, being opened, and that's it. Yes. Just I will tell just one sentence about the screen you just showed. Since we're creating 3 studies, taking them to arrive status, and then open 2 forms, it's a little bit heavy for RIS to do all the thing, because it really also go to the server and create studies, and also make the GUI to create 2 forms, which in data windows it's pretty massive action. So we worked a lot about the performance of this whole issue. This is why you saw the screen being reloaded when we clicked him. Okay, there is some mechanism around it. We're still trying to find out what is the best way to show the user this scenario. So that's it about the new study. It's a lot more complex than the old one. And the second thing that we can do with documentation is to change study. If you remember, the old documentation had change study button. Now we have only a change study. Okay, it's a button, a new button, data window button that's doing change. We have to select the procedure that we want to change. Okay, so this is the way we can change a study, to select one of them and then say that we want to change it. Again, it can be complex. Why? If we change into a study that isn't part of the group, we'll be in problem. Okay, so it will take the chest change. Let's see, change, and I'll change it to a study that is in the same group, like CT3 the others. It won't be a problem. The study is changed, you see, and there is the procedure is changed. By the way, I don't know if you remember, there is a configuration that says if we want to change only the procedure or the study itself, like only the PPS item or also the PPS code key in PPS table. And okay, so we changed the procedure, but let's take more complex scenario. If you select the main study, okay, the main study was the chest, if you remember. I now selecting him. And okay, and I want to change it to city abdomen. Where is it?
Just a quick note while she's changing this as well. We're presenting worst case scenarios. In this case, we had to design it that way. You just had to take that into account depending on how data windows were designed. We just didn't know how the sites were going to set these up. But if all your CTs belong to the same group, the field's not going to hit these types of scenarios. So we just have to present the worst case scenario. So it may seem complex, but it doesn't have to be designed that way in the field.
Sorry if I've scared you.
Oh no, that's.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to change it to a study that isn't part of this group. So we have a very long warning message or stat that's saying that we changed the primary study, and if we will continue, the other studies will be removed, because think about it, we can document them together. So we're saying to the user, if you want it, take it to your consideration that the other studies will be removed and you'll stay only with one, do whatever you want. On the other hand, if I'm choosing a study that isn't the primary, and this is very like worth thing that can be done, and I think it won't be done if we change it also to abdomen. In that case, we're saying, do we want to remove this study from the group? There is nothing we can do. We have primary study. It is like city ed, and we can't change the study that isn't primary to a study from other group. There is no way we can handle this. So just remove it and open another documentation. This is like the best thing we can do.
Even though we've tried to make it invisible, one of those studies is loaded in the data window and is the primary study that the others are going to be copied from.
Yeah.
So this is the one area where this matters. Other than this one scenario, it's essentially invisible to the user.
Okay.
And probably it's not going to happen
Yeah.
a lot, that it's a different group.
Okay.
Okay. Some other thing that we have here is about adding a procedure. I'm not sure, maybe Lee can say what is the motivation of adding procedure or how common it is. I'm not sure about adding a procedure to constant, but anyway.
Procedure code, angio, if you want to document the number of runs that they did in an angio procedure, a lot of times I'll use those as separate procedure codes.
Okay. But the idea here is that you're clicking on this add. It's a normal add button. I'll show it to you later, but it has a flag that we're talking about. It's like a document together add button. It's not a regular add button because it has to understand that the whole process is about working with those study centered relevant thing. So we are this is the place that we are deciding which study to add. Let's say it's spine, and we're adding, and here we can decide the procedure itself. Whatever. Okay. Okay. Just one more thing I want to show you is on Customization Studio is the control, is the data window.
And this is one that they don't necessarily have to use this way. They can click the change button and they can select more than one procedure code. But sometimes the procedure code is not always related to the study. Sometimes it's one of those procedure codes that can span multiple studies. Maybe they use inventory items as a procedure code and they want to add this inventory item to the procedure grid. So it's not necessarily associated to the study, so you need that ability to add it associated to a particular study. That's the scenario in this case.
Okay. So first thing is let's look about this button here. Okay. It has it's on each control. Document to get or skip copy. Okay. The default is false. Okay. But we can make it true, of course. And for the add button,
No, it's
Huh?
shall I get?
okay. Sorry.
That's the regular red button, is it?
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's document together add button. It has no real meaning to do this flag on a grid that it is not the PPS item. Okay, it's all relevant when the linked grid is PPS item. But that's a specific logic. And now let's see that it works. Let's go back to, for example, let's say the dataset is empty now for a person, PPS person reference. Now it's empty. Okay, I'm adding technologies. This is Leslie. Okay, here on the current situation before we are applying the information to the database. The copy is not done on the window itself. It's after we are clicking the OK, complete or whatever. So here we have the PPS key, and let's click OK. Okay, these are all the new studies that we created before. Let's see, let's put the study. So we have, no, actually, it's not a study. Study.
Procedure description?
Yeah.
Procedure description is the study?
I think maybe, yeah.
Okay.
It's always like yeah.
You can grab it and drag it.
Just drag it and stick it somewhere.
It's requested procedure.
You just drag it right from there.
Yeah.
Those are the untranslatables. It would be nice to ignore the brackets.
Okay, so we see those. Okay, we see those new study. And now I will do document together. Let's choose this one. It's not the main from the previous time. But we see that it was copied. Okay, and if we open the data set. Okay, both of them had, and we have the PPS that we created before, and those tables that I showed you, the multi-SPS PPS. So. Okay, it has those PPSs, and that's the thing. I think that in your hands-on, maybe you can try to change those skip copy fields to see that it's copying and it's not copying. There's a lot of logic behind it.
Yeah. Do you have
I have a
questions?
question about this
Yeah.
skip. I see in the document that there are fields that are not included
Yeah.
in the copy.
Yeah, right. I forgot to tell
About fields that we create, like custom fields at PBS
Yeah,
level.
it will.
Is
It will.
working? Okay.
We have a list. It's written in the documentation.
Yeah.
Fields that it's not matter what we are putting in the data window. We're never copying them. It would be the PPS, for example, the PPS key or the accession number or this kind of procedure. Everything is documented in the documentation. But all site table or customized field, whatever, everything is the control, and you can change the skip copy if you want to add them. If not,
All the
configurable.
site prop tables are copied from
Yeah.
one PPS to the other.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
only
All the data
key
set,
fields.
all the data set container is copied.
Yeah. PPS instance UID, the fields that you basically don't want to copy.
Yeah, there'll be some that you don't want to copy because, yeah, the tricky thing about this is that we're getting rid of the old functionality, so we got to make sure we're hitting everything on this.
Yeah.
The one thing I was thinking about is I'm working right now with Bear on radiation dose. Radiation dose, we're applying it at the PBS level. So you actually want two separate radiation doses for each procedure, right?
And in that
So-
case,
It is.
We're okay.
you don't document those together. Just because a document together capability exists, if a document together group is not defined for a study, it cannot be documented together. So in that case, you don't document them together. They have to be done separately.
I thought you could document together, you just have that particular field would not be a.
If you want to keep copies,
You
yeah.
you
But
can
then,
do
but
that,
then you
but
won't
then you
enter.
have to
But then you won't enter
individually-
the two fields. It would be one procedure would have a certain radiation dose, and the other procedure would have different radiation dose. But on the data window, you have one control, right? Unless you have a grid or something like that.
Yeah, if you have a grid, you can.
Yeah. And then the grid
You
would
can-
be skip copy.
If you're capturing it on the study level, you
Mhm.
either have to capture the
Yeah.
entire dose on one study and nothing on the other, or if the dose is identical, you could let the dose be copied or
Mhm.
document them separately. These are the things we had to take into account and give you the options of how you wanted to do them.
Just remember that everything in the data window will be copied unless you specifically say it's not, or it is one of the hard-coded not copied.
Inventory items we did not copy.
Yeah.
because Generally, they're registered against a single procedure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Most
Yeah.
of the rest, unless they're system-type fields, the data is copied. And a little more background on this, we didn't want to change the whole architecture of how we capture data. We still wanted to do it on PPS level. Because if you imagine us like moving something up to request a procedure level or creating another level, that means changing all the data windows that are out there, and we just didn't want to go there at all. So it has to really kind of be on that existing study level, otherwise it would have been a nightmare to try and create the feature. But again, the two features we're showing you this morning, they sound really easy, but under the hood, there's a ton of stuff that's the team had to think about. They've really done a
So a
good
lot
job.
of, a lot of potential risk as well. that-
There absolutely is, and that's why we really highlighted it on the core call, particularly this one, where documentation window is going to be discontinued in 11.3. You've probably got a year to put them in there and make sure that everything's going to be working properly and well, maybe a year and a half. But that's why we'd really like Document Together to be installed. So you don't have to use Document Together
Yeah.
as Document Together. You
Mhm.
can document a single study and use it just like documentation is today. That's
Yeah.
the theory, except you get a couple of benefits like being able to add multiple studies at
Yeah.
one time.
Right, because it's changed, yeah.
Yeah.
So just because the capability is there, it's like we always try to do with RIS, the existing functionality is supported as it is, so. That should be an element that you try as well. Try to do it without setting up any Document Together groups and make sure that just as documentation, it works like you think it should.
Yeah, if SPS code doesn't have Document Together key, it can be documented together with any other study, and then it's just the old documentation.
Except the change study button will still be
Yeah,
inside the
and the add study still you can still add
yes.
more than one study.
Yeah.
It just won't be together.
Yeah.
Is there any impact on the linking of the events? for your
It's
document
done
together?
separately from linking, so you still launch the link manager separately.
But then how do you control, so you do that?
You can still launch the link manager independently, and you can link the ones that are documented together. You can link across document together groups. It's the link manager didn't change whatsoever.
I just want to comment that
Because we can copy that once we complete the documentation as well.
Yes.
So how
Yeah.
would that work?
You can
Only
link.
on the main, on the...
no, I can
Yeah.
comment. The thing is that if you remember in the beginning we said that the first one of the first condition is that all studies must be in the same status. So when we are after documentation, if we're clicking complete or whatever, we're moving to another status, and then the whole chain of linking is done for each procedure. For each study, for each SPS or PPS. So the final result would be the result of the link manager, as if they weren't documented together, but just move the status. So the logic remains the same.
We didn't want to try to link the two of those. Pardon.
Okay.
Yeah, so your technologist, radiographer, can do it as two separate actions and probably should.
In a lot of cases, the ones that this is really important for, we use CT as an example here, but general X-ray. That's what you really want to document together. It's your trauma series that you want to save your time on. CTs, you're not going to document those together so much. Even a lot of times, the chest, abdomen, pelvis, those aren't three separate studies. It's a chest, abdomen, pelvis study that we'll document as one study. It's your general X-ray that you're generally not documenting a lot of extra stuff on. That this is what this feature is really for. But again, you have to think of all scenarios of how it can potentially be used. Very good job.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
So if it's
Hi. Do you have any question from? No. No? Okay. Okay, so we're closing it. How is that?
You can kind of see